When we think of American scientific standing, we usually point to the most visible achievements. These images from the James Webb Space Telescope, the spiked stars and galaxies billions of light years away, represent the grandeur we expect from our space programs. But those visible triumphs mask a slow, imperceptible slide toward irrelevance. Our scientific foundation is like a massive glacier. It looks solid on the surface, even as deep, spider-webbing cracks spread rapidly through the ice below. The data shows how far the foundation has already fractured. In just the last 24 months, the United States federal government has lost over 15,000 scientists from its ranks. Funding from major government agencies has dropped so sharply that many labs can no longer function. When the money for graduate students and postdoctoral researchers dries up, the entire operation evaporates. This erosion is destroying the pipeline of talent and ideas that guarantees our long-term health, wealth, and security. For decades, the United States imported massive amounts of foreign talent. We assumed the brightest minds from every continent would always come here to study, build their careers, and stay. These researchers were often driven by pure curiosity, exploring the scientific frontier without a specific product or quarterly revenue goal in mind. Unlike corporate R&D, this work isn't tied to an immediate profit margin. This curiosity often pays off in ways no one predicts. Decades of obscure research into the venom of the Gila monster provided the chemical basis for today's blockbuster GLP-1 weight loss medications. Or consider physicist Ed Purcell. He was a scientist fascinated by how atoms and molecules behave in space, a pursuit with no obvious medical application. But his discovery of nuclear magnetic resonance, observing how atomic nuclei react to magnetic fields, gave medical technologists a new way to see inside the human body. That pointless physics research led directly to the MRI. Today, it is a primary tool for diagnosing illness without surgery, and it exists only because a scientist was allowed to follow his curiosity. Because we cannot predetermine which discoveries on the frontier will lead to the next trillion-dollar economy, defunding curiosity effectively kills our future growth. Today, that curiosity is under political threat. When politicians see complex grant proposals with titles they don't understand, they often label the research irrelevant and cut the funding. We have also eliminated the rotating advisory positions that once brought university scientists into the government. Policymakers are now making decisions without the expertise of the people actually working on the moving frontier. Other nations are stepping into the vacuum. European labs are now calling unfunded American researchers, offering them fully backed facilities and inviting them to move their entire operations overseas. China has been particularly strategic. A first generation of students came to the US and stayed, contributing to the American system. A second generation came to be trained, but returned home to build world-class graduate programs. Now, a third generation is standing in China entirely. They are being trained and retained in a system that is rapidly ascending. Look at the skyline of Shanghai today. The mechanism we once used to lead the world, draining the best minds from other countries, is now being used to leave us behind. Scientific discovery will move forward regardless of American policy. Nature is the final judge of what happens in the lab, and it doesn't care about our politics. Historically, we only overcome this kind of bickering when we are faced with an external threat. It takes a crisis to force us into a state of national mobilization. In 1957, that crisis was Sputnik. The sight of a Soviet radio transmitter flying over our heads spooked the nation into immediate action. The reaction was swift. Within a year, we created NASA, and within 12 years, we had astronauts walking on the lunar surface. We saw the same mobilization after the attack on Pearl Harbor. The country aligned its scientific, military, and corporate resources toward a single survival-driven goal. Consider that plutonium was only isolated in 1940. Just 5 years later, scientists had weaponized it and detonated the first atomic bomb at the Trinity site. In 1987, Ronald Reagan pointed out that our differences would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. It seems we need a common enemy to find common ground. We see it even today. One of the few times members of both parties sit together in Congress to ask serious, shared questions is during hearings about UFOs and potential alien technology. We will likely descend further into this scientific hole before the country finally reaches a breaking point and decides to wake up. But once the national purpose is clear, we have a proven history of scaling research and infrastructure at a speed that changes the global landscape. When the United States finally commits to the goal, we have the capacity to rise out of the dark and back into the light.